So if you're leading an enterprise software company right now, you know things are wild. The ground is just constantly shifting under your feet. And those old playbooks? Yeah, they're pretty much useless. So the big question is, how do you not just survive, but actually come out on top in this kind of environment? Well, let's dive right into a new strategic playbook for leading through all this uncertainty.
You know that feeling of constant chaos? It actually has a name, VUCA. And look, it's not a new concept, but let's be real. Recent global events have thrown it into absolute hyperdrive. For so many businesses, digital transformation went from being this nice-to-have item on a checklist to a we need this yesterday kind of necessity. And that right there, that presents a massive opportunity for software companies that are ready to make a move.
Which of course brings us to the central question, right? If the old maps are completely useless, how in the world do you navigate? What does this new playbook even look like? Well, guess what? That's exactly what we're here to break down.
All right, so here's the game plan. First, we're going to secure our base. Then, we'll get into realigning the product and the delivery model. After that, we'll look at how to grow smart. And finally, and this is the key, we'll see how a really strong defense is what actually sets you up for a winning offense.
Okay, let's kick things off with the big picture. Just navigating this new normal. And yeah, you can call it a crisis, but it's also created some absolutely incredible openings for tech and innovation. This is especially true for software companies that are actually prepared to jump on this momentum.
So, play number one, and this is probably the most crucial one. You have to fortify your base. Seriously, before you could even think about going on offense, you've got to protect what you already have. That means securing your current revenue, no question. And look, this isn't some minor issue we're talking about. Check this out. A staggering 60% of publicly traded product companies saw their revenue drop in at least one of the last 3 years. I mean, think about that. This volatility is absolutely widespread. It's hitting everyone from airlines to automotive. That makes protecting your revenue a truly universal challenge.
So, what did the smart leaders do in response? Well, they basically threw out the old, unreliable forecasts and set up what they called war rooms. And this wasn't business as usual, not by a long shot. We're talking about an immediate, all-hands-on-deck effort to protect their financial position in some truly extraordinary times.
And inside these war rooms, you better believe the focus was laser sharp. Leaders were actively monitoring every little shift in client spending, just trying to mitigate losses. The urgency to double down and deepen the partnerships you already had, it became more critical than ever, mainly because trying to build brand new relationships just got a whole lot harder. All right. So, once your base is secure, it's time to shift gears. Let's talk about play number 2, adapt your strategy. This is where we start moving from pure defense to something more proactive, strategically realigning your product roadmap for this new reality.
Now, this is really interesting. What we're looking at here is the huge investment challenge leaders are facing. Think about it. Improving the stuff you already have, that takes a baseline level of R&D investment, right? But what if you want to enter entirely new product areas? Well, that demands double the investment. It's just a massive trade-off that leaders constantly have to weigh.
So how do you actually do it? Well, there's a process. First, you've got to identify those adjacent markets, places where your solutions might be a good fit. Then you reassess everything against your core strategy. And here's the critical part. You adopt agile planning. This is what allows you to constantly reprioritize so you can execute with a flexible portfolio that actually responds to what your customers need now.
Okay, let's switch over to the operational side of things with our next play, which is all about building a resilient engine. And what I mean by that is making your delivery model both lean and powerful enough to weather pretty much any storm that comes your way.
And this right here perfectly captures the leader's dilemma. It's a real catch-22. On one hand, you absolutely have to cut operational costs to improve your cash flow and build up that resilience. But on the other hand, you have to keep investing in R&D and new tech to drive future growth. So how do you possibly do both at the same time? Well, the key that really unlocks this whole puzzle, it's a global delivery model. We're talking about using talent and resources from all over the world. This is the strategic move that lets a company lower its costs and tap into a much wider pool of innovation, all at the same time. It's how you solve that dilemma.
Okay, so you've got a strong foundation. You've built a resilient engine. Now you're finally ready to go on the offensive. This next play is all about proactively hunting down and capturing those new opportunities that are popping up in the market.
And trust me, there are some very clear hotspots for growth out there.
All this rapid digital activity has driven huge spending in areas like cybersecurity and cloud-based products. Plus, with pretty much everyone working remotely, the demand for better communication and operational infrastructure has just absolutely exploded.
So, the question is, how do you expand into these hot areas? Well, there are basically two main avenues you can take. First, you can form new partnerships, using things like sell with or sell through models to broaden your market reach. Or you can take a much more aggressive approach and look at strategic mergers and acquisitions, M&A.
M&A has become a really polarized tool in this kind of environment. For the big established players, it's a super fast way to just acquire key capabilities and expand their business horizons. But at the same time, for companies that might be struggling, it actually provides a viable and often amicable exit path.
And all of this brings us to our final and honestly, our most important play. This is where we tie everything together. It's about understanding the deep connection between everything we've just talked about. I call it the defender's winning offense. And it's all about how a good defense is what actually fuels your victory.
Think of it like this, okay? The defensive playbook, that's all about consolidating your business, building resilience, and creating a rock-solid foundation. And that foundation, that resilience, is what gives you the power to then execute the offensive playbook, to go out, seize new opportunities, and really thrive when the market is ready. So you see, they're not separate strategies at all. They're two sides of the very same coin. And really, that's the ultimate takeaway here. This quote just says it all perfectly. Offense is possible, but the path to doing that is through great defense. A strong defense isn't just about survival anymore. It's the necessary launchpad, the foundation for a truly winning offense. So as we wrap this all up, I want to leave you with one final question to really think about for your own organization. It's not just about, can you weather the storm? The real question is your defense strong enough to actually let you go out and win the game?